Okay, so we talked about the noun clause. We talked about clauses, phrases, and let's say sentences at the beginning. Now, today we want to talk about the adjective clause. The adjective clause. So the adjective clause are, let's say goodbye to the. We're going to talk about this. Now, before that, just a quick look. So a phrase was a group of words that come together, like collocations things. A clause was subject-verb, subject doing the verb. Sentence, actually a clause is part of a larger sentence. The sentence, if the sentence is simple sentence, it's like one clause, one sentence. Two clauses, dependent, independent clauses, we looked at them. So simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentences. We talked about all that. We talked about noun phrases. The noun phrases were so essential now. If you want to look at grammar properly, you should forget about those stupid words, the grammar, terminology. You don't necessarily need to know what a noun phrase is or what an adjective clause is. But right now, I said you don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is. Just listen to this. So I'm speaking, right? I'm saying you don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is. So basically, you don't necessarily need to know something, and this something is a noun, and it's a clause, so it's a noun clause. So subconsciously, subconsciously, that is, I didn't think about it automatically. Have you heard subconsciously? Subconsciously. It means automatically, without thinking, subconsciously, I used a noun phrase, noun clause, talking about noun clauses. So you don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is in order to use them in your sentences, to be able to use them in your sentences. Because I said, people talk. If you ask a native speaker, you don't necessarily need to know what something is. You don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is to speak. But you would use it. Native people use these things, they speak like this, without even knowing that this is a noun clause, without knowing that they have changed the structure from question to affirmative. So the question was, what is a noun clause? And the answer is, you don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is. Not, you don't necessarily need to know what is a noun clause. Now, a lot of people make this mistake. Holly, I don't want you to make this mistake. A lot of people make this mistake. So when you speak, you don't necessarily have to know who is he. No. You don't necessarily have to know who he is. You don't need to know who he is, not who is he. Well, who is he? You don't need to know who he is. What does he do? You don't need to know what he does. What's his job? You don't need to know. Trust me, you don't want to know what his job is. So if I say trust me, this is quite conversational, right? You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Want to know, which is you don't want to know. So if I say trust me, you don't want to know, what does that mean? It means you're not going to be happy if you hear it. You better not know. Trust me, you don't want to know. Trust me, you don't want to know what his real job is. What his real job is. Trust me, you don't really want to know what his real job is. You don't really want to know what his real job is. You don't want to know what his real job is. So I was like, what's his job? You don't want to know what his job is. Not what is, you don't want to know what is his job. No, you don't want to know what his job is. How much do you weigh? You don't want to know how much I weigh. It's like you're not going to be happy hearing it. You'll be surprised or shocked. You don't want to know. Do you love me? You don't want to know the answer. I hate you. Huh? Where does he work? I don't know where. He works.
Works.
Where does he live? I have no idea where he lives. Is it important where he lives? Where he lives is not important. Something is not important. So in noun clauses, with WH things, the question structure turns into the affirmative, positive structure. So it's not a question anymore. So what does he do? I don't know something, right? I don't know what he does. Where does he live? I have no idea where he lives. It's not important where he lives. It's not important what he does. It's not important what he thinks. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you know or don't know. So I'm not like, what do you know? Now, we did this. Now we want to move to the adjective clause. The reason why this was a noun clause was because in the big sentence, in the bigger schema or sentence, what happens here is you don't necessarily need to know what a noun clause is. You don't know something, right? This whole clause is right now acting as a noun in this sentence. That's why it's a noun clause. Because I would say, give me, I know you. You is a noun. I know somebody. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. I know who you are, and where you come from. I know why you did that. I know why you did that. I know why you said that. I know something. All of these are simply replacing a noun. I don't know what. I don't know Jack. I don't know Jim. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. But where to go is not a clause. It's a phrase. So, when I say, I don't know where to go, what to do, or I don't know where to go, what to do, or what to say, I'm actually using phrases, right? These are phrases. So it's a noun phrase. So I could use a noun phrase or a noun clause. Now, by the same token, the same way, when we're talking about adjective clauses, we do the same thing, and you'll see in just a bit. Okay? Now let's say goodbye to noun clauses, and let's start. So what do you think an adjective clause or adjective phrase should do? What is an adjective, or what does it do? So when we say he's a tall man.
Yeah, well.
So if I say John is tall.
Describe something.
John is tall. The word tall is? It's an adjective.
Yeah.
So why do we call it an adjective? Because it modifies or describes, to modify, modifies, or describes a noun. So if this is our noun, and tall modifies the noun, yeah? A tall man. A tall man. Man is the noun, tall is the adjective that modifies and describes. So, instead of this tall, if we have a group of words, that would be an adjective phrase. If we have like a sentence, like subject verb, that's an adjective clause. Yeah, that's it, simple as that. Now, because it's within a larger body, that's a clause. It's not a sentence. Like what? The boy who is sitting there, the boy who is sitting there is a friend of mine. Friend of mine. So, the boy is a friend of mine. That boy is a friend of mine. Now, I say the boy is the subject or noun, right?
And
Who is sitting there is a friend of mine. So, the boy is a friend of mine. That boy is a friend of mine is a sentence. Now, what is this? What is this? Is it a clause or a phrase? It's a clause. Who is the subject and sitting is the verb. Subject verb. So the boy who is sitting there. Now what is it doing? It's describing the noun. So that's why it's describing the boy. Okay? The man who is standing there is my friend. The boy who is sitting there. The girl who is wearing white. The girl in blue. The girl who is wearing a blue jacket. The boy who is wearing a blue jacket is what? Is John's close friend. Is John's is my classmate. The boy who is sitting there is my classmate. The boy who's wearing a blue jacket is my classmate.
Describe something.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Now, I can say, instead of saying the boy who is, I can say the boy's sitting there.
The way.
The boy's sitting there. Then, sitting there is not a clause anymore, it's a phrase. So from clause to phrase. The man who is standing there is my father's friend? Or the man standing there? Oh, the man standing there is my English teacher. Look at him. Look at that guy. The guy standing there is Jane's boyfriend. The man standing there is Jane's boyfriend. It's Jack's uncle. Instead of saying the man who is standing or who is sitting, I can say the man sitting, the man standing. So from clause to phrase. But that's not important. What is clause? It's not important what clause is, what phrase is, or which one happens to be the clause and which one happens to be the phrase. What's important is being able to say these things in English. Now, in writing, if this is not necessary, my clause is not necessary, I'll put 2 commas here and there so that I can take it out, lift it up, and throw it away if I don't need it. If this is necessary, part of the sentence, and without it the sentence doesn't make sense, then I would need none of these. So when it comes to punctuation, you know punctuation, which is putting these marks, comma, period, and stuff, that's punctuation. Punctuation. If this is a necessary part of the sentence, we'll have 2 commas, so we can take it out. If it's not necessary, sorry. If it doesn't change the meaning. Well, it adds information, definitely, but it's not essential. If it's not essential, and without it the sentence still makes sense. But apart from that, the point is being able to say these things. Now, we have adjective clause and adjective clause pronouns, like the man who, the car, can I say the car who?
No,
Which, or that.
Whom?
So the man. For the man, the boy, I can say also that. When do we use whom? If I say the boy to whom, or the boy with whom, the boy to whom, or with whom, Jane is talking, is blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Why did I say to whom? Because whom here is an object. Who subject? Whom object. So if a preposition is added like to, with, in, who, is added to who becomes an object. We have object of preposition. It's called object of preposition. The girl with whom? Like who with? The girl with whom I'm staying at the moment is crazy. The girl with whom I'm staying at the moment is a friend of Jack's. Is 26 years old. But I'm talking about my roommate. That is yours. Hobby. How old is your roommate? 31 you said?
Yeah.
So the girl with whom Hobby lives at the moment, the girl with whom Hobby is living is 31 years old. So the girl with whom, I don't say with who. The man to whom I sent the letter, turned out to be my boss. Or was the wrong person to receive the letter, right? I sent the letter to the wrong man. The man to whom, not to who, I sent the letter was the wrong person. Yeah? The friends with whom you hang out.
The difference to whom is because the subject is
Because-
I.
Yeah, I sent the letter to him.
I'm the subject.
Yeah, I sent the letter to him.
Yeah.
But the man to whom I sent the
It's
letter,
different. Because in the who that you are reference for the subject.
subject.
Yeah. Okay.
Who is subject? Whom? Object. So we call them adjective clause pronouns. Now, so this is objective. Whom is an object. Well, who is subject? Objective, subjective.
Okay.
Now, yeah, it's so whenever you have preposition plus who with who. Now, sometimes say who with, what with. It's like with who. I was speaking. I say who with.
Who with?
Who with. Now, in spoken English, we rarely use whom. But when a preposition comes, I can say with who, or I can say who with. With who. I live with a person. With who. Now, but in grammar, I should say with whom. Also, in spoken English, some people prefer to speak more properly, so they say with whom. I can say with who. Or I can say who with. So with who or who with? I was talking with Jack. I would say about what or what about? What about?
What about?
What about? Or about what? So what about? Or about what? We're talking to Jack about what? Or what about? I was going to work. Who with? With who? So your girlfriend saw you go to work with another girl, Avi, and says, I was going to school. It says, Who with? Say nobody. With who? It could be with who or with whom. Okay? So this is might sound a... So what about? He was talking to me. What about? Or about what? With whom? With who? Who with? Now I want to say goodbye to this part. And come up with some more sentences. So we have some of these pronouns, such as, again, so who or whom, so that is used for people and objects.
Yeah.
That is used for everything. But who, whom, whose, people, that, which, that, objects. Right? The car which is left, the car which is parked in front of your house, or the car that is parked, I can't say the car who, right? So I would say the car that or which is parked in front of your house is my friend's car. Yeah? So the car which is parked in front of your house is my friend's car. The car that is parked in front of your house is my friend's car. The car which is parked in front of your house is my friend's car. Or the park that is parked in front of your house is my friend's car. Which is or that is. But the man who is talking, the girl who is talking. How about whose? The girl whose jacket is blue,
Yeah.
whose car is parked next to yours, his car is parked next to yours, is John's girlfriend, is John's sister. The girl whose car is parked next to yours is John's sister. Can I say the girl is John's sister? Which girl? If I can't say it, if I don't understand it, then I don't need these things because it's essential. We have restricted and non-restricted clauses. So, if you ever hear the words restrictive, and non-restrictive adjective clauses, restrictive basically means it restricts you. It's essential to the meaning. Essential to the meaning. Means if it's not there, the sentence is not complete, you don't understand. Which girl? So the girl whose car is parked next to yours is John's sister. To me, this is essential. Because it's essential, I don't need commas. If it's not essential, you put commas on both sides of the clause so we can just take it out with the two clauses, with the two actually commas, and get rid of it if you don't need it. But we need it in this sentence, so I don't need no commas here. This is called restrictive adjective clause. A restrictive adjective clause is something that's necessary. But for speaking, I don't want you to remember any of that. For speaking, I want you to remember the boy whose car is parked here. The girl whose jacket is red. The girl whose father said no to you. the boy whose father hit you is what? The boy whose father hit you yesterday is coming. So in all these sentences, this clause is describing the noun, modifying the noun, is talking about the noun. So this clause is an adjective clause. The boy, we're saying something about the boy, right? The boy whose father hit you yesterday. You can make it more complicated. The boy whose father was your English teacher is in my English class. So, for people who, the girl who is sitting there, the man who is standing there, the woman who is talking to Jack, I can make it from clause, I can turn it into phrase. The man talking to Jack, the girl sitting there, the boy speaking on the phone, the man coming near us, approaching us. For things we would say that or which. The book which is on the desk, the book that is on the desk. For people, for places, where. For time, when. The office where I work, the time when I come home, yeah? So where and when for time and place, for place and time, respectively. So the time when I leave work every day is not. The building where I work, where I teach, the school where I teach is going to close. To close next month. Went bankrupt. The school where I teach is going to close next month. The school where I teach is going to close next month. The city where I live, is far from here. Yeah. Now, sometimes you use them this way. So So, a few examples. This is exactly what it's all about. There are some examples. In our village, there were many people who didn't have much money. Yeah? In our village, there were many people who didn't have enough money. I enjoyed the book that you told me about. I enjoyed the book that you told me about. The book that you told me about. I still remember the man who taught me to play the violin. I still remember the man who taught me to play the violin. Yeah? I still remember the man who taught me English. I showed my father a picture of the car that I'm going to buy. I showed my father a picture of the car that I'm going to buy. Does it make sense? I showed my father a picture of the car that I'm going to buy. I don't like to spend time with people who lose their temper easily. People who lose their temper. With who? With people who... Can I take a look at the pictures that you took yesterday? Or which you took yesterday? The book I read, the book which I read, that I read. The car that is parked in front of your house. So this is as simple as that. I'll never forget the day, or when. I'll never forget the day when I'll never forget the day when I first met you or saw you. The day when. Because it's about time. I'll never forget the day when I first met you. I'll never forget the day when I lost my job. Or instead of when, you can also say that. Yeah. This is exactly all about adjective clauses, basically. So we need to do some more work just to make it sound more fluent. So when you speak, we usually reduce in speaking adjective clauses to phrases. Oh, the man, can you see the man who's standing there? The man who is smoking. The man's smoking. The man who is smoking. The man who is smoking is a friend of mine. Is my English teacher. Is my physics teacher. The car which is parked outside. The car parked outside. The day when I first saw you. So, adjective clauses, it's just we need to use them not to forget. Not to forget. Any other special thing about it? Nothing very special. So that's it as far as adjective clauses go. Next would be adverbials and adverbs and adverb clauses. That's very important. So we've covered noun phrases and noun clauses, adjective phrases and adjective clauses, and next is adverbials.